previous generation of artillery,
incredible.
and now here it is turning a group of goblins into fertilizer. So, yeah.
I remember you guys telling me that this particular one is a modded campaign as well from Reggie, so I have no idea what to expect, really. But of course, before we begin, make sure you go support Reggie. Link to the OG video is always at the top of the description. Tank? Okay.
Gentlemen, I have one question.
Start.
When you visualize Warhammer, do you see machine gun nests mowing down hordes of the undead? Maybe war zeppelins dropping bombs on confused Frenchmen?
So literally, we've like modded in a World War I faction into the game. This kind of reminds me of all those isekai anime where they cross over like real world military versus fantasy military tactics and stuff like that. Although to be fair, we kind of already have the Skaven, which is basically like that, so is it really that outlandish?
Even thousands of soldiers simultaneously suffering from trench foot. Well, you should, because today we're going to be using the technology and tactics of a certain 20th century military power to conquer the world. But having both of our feet amputated will be the least of our concerns, because on turn 100, chaos portals will open all over the map, unleashing thousands of demons with an intense desire to consume our vital organs. Can we become a military superpower and overcome this cataclysmic event?
Okay, no, this shot is actually pretty epic, not gonna lie. And just the premise itself sounds really, really cool. Just like using modern day weaponry to fight off the demons of chaos. And I mean, we kind of have that with 40k, but that's like, you know, futuristic weaponry.
Or will we be subjugated by our demonic overlords? There's only one way to know. But first, a word from our sponsor, War Thunder. It's a game with an impressive collection of over 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, which you can use to decimate your friends regardless of which team you're on. Personally, I like to turn off my weapon systems and just use myself as the explosive. In this regard, hypersonic jets are the most effective option. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, with dynamic and detailed damage models. So when I crash my F-16 into the side of a T-34 tank at 2,000 kilometers an hour, I get a complex breakdown of exactly why I am no longer alive. The customization is impeccable. Zooming in to read manga off the side of a Japanese tank, simply incredible. Finally, the graphics are so good I've suffered a mental break and I don't know what's real anymore. Play War Thunder for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. If you use my link in the comments, you'll get a bonus pack with free stuff. And if you don't use it, I'll find you. Here we are in the lovely old world. It's very much the same, except Karl Franz is now an ultra-nationalist and he's wearing a pickle hop.
Okay, please tell me that's a mod or something, because that is cursed.
Normally, the Empire operates as a collection of city-states that eventually confederate through a series of popularity contests. It's a little like democracy, which is nice, because democracy is a system by the people and for the people.
But the people are retarded.
And I don't have time for...
Oh my goodness. I've never seen that before, actually. What I will say, after the little bit that I played of Karl Franz's campaign, my goodness, it is so difficult to make sure that everybody kind of, you know, doesn't lose their shit. They can't fend off their own territory. They need you to help them, the Emperor, but also they'll get mad at you, you know, for just being there and existing sometimes. And also everybody around the entire empire will get mad at you and want you dead. It is one heck and heck of a campaign, and I have no idea why it's still recommended for beginners, because it certainly is not it. Even with the updates, I would say that it's pretty overwhelming. I can't imagine playing it before then with like how you have to capture the fortress from the secessionists, I believe. Which you don't have to anymore, but yeah, it's still a lot.
Such political machinations. So instead, we'll be doing all of our diplomacy with the business end of a machine gun. We start by introducing ourselves to our neighbors. Hello and goodbye. I know these tactics might seem excessive, but we need to aggressively develop our empire if we want to have any hope of surviving Armageddon. Because I may have put it on max difficulty. With our first enemy defeated, we can now recruit some conscripts. They're our weakest unit, and they're also preposterously expensive. But with a bit of focus fire, they can assassinate enemy generals in one volley. So, not bad. Clearly, we're going for quality over quantity. Our campaign started off quite well. We bounced around Reichland, liberating settlements from the tyrannical Polish menace. So impressive was our blitzkrieg that a beast wizard wanted to join the army. I know he may appear to be some kind of homeless schizophrenic, but he's actually just your average Los Angeles man. So
Okay, I'm going to assume this is part of the mod.
So I let him join our crusade. Now, in an effort to immediately bankrupt my own government, I decided to start building a second army led by the legendary General Wilhelm von Zollernhorn. And yes, I did Google that name to see if he was associated with any genocides. Surprisingly, he was not. Wilhelm is
Oh, yeah. Quite unexpected for a Reggie video to not be associated with that. I suppose it depends on the kind of faction that you're playing and how well your economy is doing, because there's always a benefit to recruiting an additional lord early, as in like you can get another army going with a lord that is pretty leveled up as long as you like have them tag team along with your main army. But also the hit to like upkeep can be pretty devastating and can kind of slow down everything else, like building up your settlements and cities and getting your economy actually started. I don't know if there's like a rule of thumb or like a best tactic here, or if that's just, you know, as I said, like maybe faction dependent. But I'd be interested to know about your opinions for those of you guys who have much more experience in the game than I do. Like, is recruiting an additional lord at the very beginning a good idea, or usually not?
great, because unlike Carl, his talent tree actually buffs our modern units. And you better believe I'm going to specialize him entirely into tank warfare.
Unlike Carl, I mean, if we're talking about specifically these units, then yeah, obviously it's part of the mod. But Carl does basically buff all of the units in his army, doesn't he? With his unique path. Makes sense, because he's the Emperor of Mankind and obviously is there to lead people rather than be an absolute beast himself, which I think he does actually do quite a fair bit of damage once he gets his legendary mount.
But we don't have any tanks yet. In fact, all we have are people who wanted to be here slightly more than they wanted to be in a military prison. So let's get back on track. After finishing off the Empire Secessionists, we received a quest to defend this beach from an amphibious landing of Vikings. Unfortunately for the Vikings, the beach they are landing on is Normandy Beach, because we have just unlocked light machine gun nests.
Oh my
and
God,
as you may
actually.
imagine, a band of naked Norwegians is no match for the 1,200 rounds per minute coming out of these guns. After completing our revisionist history at Normandy, I decided to declare war on Emil von Corden. Why would I do that? Because no one can stop me. Emil's forces were difficult to defeat because there were 2,500 of them.
Oh my goodness. Oh, imagine it could Claw Doom Rocket right there. Any spell, any Vortex spell, please. Oh, that'd be so good. But I also feel like it's generally not a good idea to go for Marienburg so early in the game, because that usually leads to trouble with Norska, as well as, I believe, Bellacore up there, because you become diplomatically visible to them, and obviously they're gonna immediately declare war on you since they're those kind of people. However, considering the weaponry that we're packing with this mod, I think we might be fine.
But
yeah,
now there's not.
Exactly.
This gives us ownership over one of the mountain passes, which will help us control our borders, especially when the demons arrive. While this was going on, Wilhelm was starting up a war on the Eastern Front, and things were going pretty well. However, we were starting to run into some growing pains. As it turns out, ignoring your faction's game mechanics in favor of ultra-violence is not a wise decision, because after declaring war on 2 people just for fun, everyone thinks I'm clinically insane, and our popularity is plummeting. Much like a high school girl, without popularity, Carl's empire starts to physically decompose. So to correct this economic tailspin, we need to increase our approval rating. To achieve that, we will stop fighting humans and instead focus on killing creatures of the night, such as the elderly. Unfortunately, Eben von Leibowitz didn't get this memo, and he attacked Wilhelm with 3,000 units. Now, machine guns are very strong, but as it turns out, they have their limitations, and we got absolutely massacred. This was a small but detectable setback in our plans. With my army...
I mean, if they throw enough bodies at you, then yeah, they're gonna get you eventually. Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with Heinrich myself just yet, but I feel like Heinrich can be kind of a pain. The man seems pretty strong and his army is pretty good, at least from what I've heard from you guys.
Destroyed, Durthu took the opportunity to demand financial restitution from us, despite the fact I've never even talked to him before. I'll be honest.
Same. I think this is just what Durthu does. I've been paying this man off to make sure that he doesn't ram a tree out my rear end while I'm trying to deal with Mr. Festus as well as Throt in the north. And so far it's been pretty effective. I don't know, I guess Durthu just really wants to expand the forest, or, you know, make sure that all things don't exist around the forest anymore. just wood elf stuff.
It really damages my confidence to be successfully extorted by sentient plant matter, and I won't be forgetting this. But for now, we can't afford another war. Now, it's not all bad, because the Beastmen just completed their end of a suicide pact by running headfirst into my capital, and this gave us a nice little chunk of change. In fact, money is at a bit of a premium in my empire, because if I want to recruit a super heavy tank, it's going to cost me thousands of gold. Fortunately, I found a few ways to make money. For example, I struck up a trade deal with this lovely wood elf lady.
Shh, don't tell, but I think I want to kill her.
Aside from that, we've just been completing...
We were actually making quite a fair bit of money from that trade agreement. And I didn't particularly see like where that wood elf was, but I'm guessing it's the wood elf faction that starts in the empire as well. So yeah, that's not gonna last very long.
Quests, trading with the Chinese, and stealing Heinrich Kemmler's social security checks. Speaking of Heinrich, the war is going quite well. Much like the Beastmen, he fell into the trap of driving himself into a wood chipper at 300 kilometers per hour. And since then, I've been using light tanks to carve my way through his territory. Truly, there is no cleaner pleasure than watching machine gun fire tear into hordes of the undead.
Okay, you know, that's actually pretty cool. I kind of want to experience this, not gonna lie. Using this kind of machinery against, well, normal fantasy units. And as I said before, you kind of get this experience with the Skaven, but like, it's not exactly the same. Or at least I would hope so.
Campaign culminated in the siege of Castle Artois. It was kind of awkward because we have almost no melee units, and we can't really shoot them effectively from this angle. So I settled on using some...
That's one of the main issues with like having a team of rattling gunners as Ikit Claw trying to siege a settlement. Like your rattling gunners cannot shoot anything on top of the wall unless you have really, really good angle. And then once you get into the settlement, you just get like choke pointed. So like all you can really do is set up like a kill zone or something and hopefully grind down all the units within the fortress. But apart from that, yeah, you're kind of out of options.
Breaching charges to open the castle gates. From here, I just let my tanks sit down in front of the door and shoot anyone who attempted to move from here to here. It was a little like Red Rover, except the stakes were a lot higher because angry Germans are shooting at you with machine guns. Eventually we won, but clearly I'm going to have to invest in some heavy artillery going forward. At this point, all of our initial...
Okay, I mean, the artillery for the Empire is pretty busted already, but we've actually modernized it now. Oh boy.
Enemies are dead, so it's a good time to assess our position in the world. It's turn 33, we occupy a thin band of regions along the southwest. I was hoping to have the entire empire conquered by turn 40, so it's safe to say we're a little behind schedule, but I'm confident that our rapidly developing military technology will help us catch up. For example, Wilhelm recently acquired a new mount. Is it a horse or even a dog sled pulled by children? No, it's a bulletproof Mercedes-Benz with a machine gun mounted on the roof. I'd like to see Vlad von Karstein compete with this. Speaking of Vlad, he's going to be our next target. He owns a lot of territory, and unfortunately for him, most of the Geneva Conventions do not apply to reanimated corpses.
Last I checked, yeah, true. That was also another big problem with the Empire campaign, right? Because Vlad the Dad would be a thorn in your side, and eventually come with endless hordes of armies. You didn't really have Elspeth there to kind of be his counter, basically. Which, speaking of, I should definitely try out Elspeth's campaign. A lot of her artillery units and, yeah, I guess, I forget exactly what they were called, the Amethyst units. They seem really, really fun to use. Gotta try them out.
So I should lose no popularity by eviscerating him with hundreds of landmines. However, the orcs were blocking my path into Sylvania, so I had to grapple with the serious moral dilemma of whether I should shoot them to death or cover them in napalm. I chose both. It was all going very well, because the orc military philosophy consists exclusively of screaming and running headfirst into bullets. Yeah. The undead were
not that great of a tactic when your enemy has a bunch of range units that are just gonna mow you down immediately.
Experiencing a similar issue. Usually, they throw bodies at you until you become exhausted, but luckily for us, bullets do not get tired. The only problem we ran into was that the ghosts are ethereal, so roughly half of our bullets go right through them. But I am a firm believer in just shooting them twice as much. So we plowed forward, capturing Grenstadt, Schwarzhaven, and Fort Obersteyr. And just as my military conquest was about to send me over the edge into an erection-induced coma, tragedy struck. Clan Scryer declared war on me. It's alright though, they're strength rank 21 and we're rank 2, so surely they won't invade me with 3 armies, you son of a bitch. You look like a smart guy, so I probably don't have to tell you, but this is really bad. Because for every Skaven we can see, there are probably 10 that we can't. With all of my generals tied up in the east, Ikit Claw had a fantastic time detonating nuclear devices on my peasant...
God! Oh, Jesus. Okay, give me 1 second. I need to see that again. Oh my god, that's 4 entire
Had a
units.
fantastic time detonating
Gone.
nuclear devices on my peasant militias. To make the situation even
Okay, in our campaign, Ikit hasn't found us just yet, so I'm kind of thankful for that. I wonder what the tactic would be when you're fighting against Ikit. Is there some way that you can, like, predict when Ikit is gonna drop his Doom Rocket? I feel like I've seen that in a Legend of Total War video at one point, that he, like, on the spot, like, predicted exactly when Ikit was gonna drop his Doom Rocket, and was able to position a unit and move them out of the way accordingly. Although I suppose for us who are not Legend of Total War, we would probably just do our best to keep our units spread out so he doesn't get a good bomb off like that again. Although, to be fair, like, most factions would want to spread their units out as far as possible. I've been watching a few pro matches and that's usually their tactic at all times, because just having a bunch of them grouped up onto one unit isn't really as beneficial. Unless if you're doing some really funky tactic like, you know, a Nurgle stack or Helmand Gorse with a bunch of zombies. Which actually, I would really love to see that tactic, and then it gets Doom Rocket dropped straight onto it. Oh my god, a full 20 stack gone with 1 rocket would be amazing.
more embarrassing, the orcs actually started defeating us by changing their army composition. Did they also develop heavy machine guns, you may ask? Nope, not even close. They just put themselves on pigs and drove into my gun line really fast. The only silver lining to all of this was that I convinced Balthazar Gelt to confederate with me, which expanded my borders considerably. Naturally, this decimated my economy because AI build their empires in the same way a recently lobotomized man builds a helicopter, which is to say, not very well. Anyway,
well, that is true, but I believe the AI also gets bonuses to their economy depending on the difficulty that you're playing. So usually whenever you confederate stuff like that, yeah, it puts you in the red because obviously you don't get those bonuses. At least I think that's how that works.
After sorting that out, I sent Gelt back to deal with the Skaven, and since he is a wizard of metal, I gave him some very heavy metal to work with. Aside from that, Wilhelm went on a paid vacation to the lovely city of Skavenblight to burn it to the ground and stomp on the ashes. Our capture of Skavenblight could be compared to cutting the head off the chicken that his clan scribed.
Oh my god, that's sack value. Jesus.
The issue is that the body is still thrashing around and shitting all over my territory. However, after 10 turns and several doses of lorazepam, we had finally finished them off. In their place, I installed several puppet governments that were loyal to me. I can't be everywhere at once, but having multiple semi-competent allies spread across the map should be enough. At this point, my blood pressure was finally starting.
I'm gonna assume was it Talapland? I forget their exact name. Either that or those were like the border princes, as well as Bretonia.
Normalize again. So obviously the ogres decided to rectify that by declaring war and attacking me with 3 gigantic armies.
This is what I'm talking about, man. Playing as the Empire, everything, everywhere, all at once just wants you dead. These ogres are opportunists as well, so if you leave a particular section of your empire undefended, they immediately declare war on you.
At this moment, the game expects me to just roll over and accept my dick flattening like a good boy, but I said no. I'm fighting this battle, and I'm not going to stop pissing myself until I win. We took up a defensive position atop this hill, and I started skirmishing with my tanks. The ogre race is an exciting experiment in determining just how much fat a body can accommodate before it ruptures at the seams, which makes them incredibly easy to shoot with a rifle. Even better than
yeah, thankfully, because they're such big targets. I wonder, well, we haven't seen the unit cards for any of these modded units, so don't know if any of these range ones have like an anti-large on them, as like in the anti-tank stuff, if there are any. But fighting the ogre shouldn't be too difficult. Unless, of course, you know, if they charge you.
Than that, I found I could use my tanks to blob the enemies up, at which point my heavy machine guns would start tearing them apart. It was a bit of a messy process, but eventually we managed to shoot, bludgeon, and explode the ogres to death. As a thank you to Scrag for being such a good sport about the whole ogre genocide thing, I decided to travel into his territory, burn his castle down, and install a xenophobic city-state in its place. Now back to business. Vlad von Karstein is technically still alive, but his empire is dying, so we're going to administer some end-of-life care by caving in his cranium. This was fairly easy because I now have access to Pioneer infantry, which can construct razor wire, MG nests, mortars, and anti-aircraft bunkers for free. It takes a lot of time, but the undead aren't exactly in a hurry.
That's actually pretty cool that you can make fortifications and stuff in a field battle.
In fact, they're having a hard time moving at all, because Wilhelm upgraded his mount, and he's now flying above the battlefield in a war blimp, dropping cinder blocks and lawn darts on our enemies as
It's basically just a upgraded version of a thunder barge.
they approach. Excited by the idea of blimp supremacy, I decided to recruit several Imperial war blimps to help me clean up some Viking villages. They're stronger, considerably more phallic, and each one has 10 bombs they can deploy for massive damage. The Norwegians attempted to counter this by throwing axes into the sky. Not only did this tactic not work, it actually made me bomb them even harder. At this point, I've managed to narrow down what the actually good units are, and things are starting to move pretty fast. Some orcs declared war on us, we beat the daylights out of poor Festus, hired the red...
Imagine being Festus, just seeing the blimps just fly over your entire army, destroying it. Like, what are you gonna do? Does Nurgle even have ranged units? I don't remember.
Baron, who was apparently a melee specialist despite being in a biplane, killed some wood elves while no one was looking, used rocket launchers to defeat Pope Francis in a quest battle, and most importantly, we implemented government-mandated crystal meth for all of my soldiers, which is clearly evident by the way my machine gunners are currently tweaking out in between volleys. At this point, it's turn 70, and we control almost all Empire territory. Our only active enemies are the Norskins, the Orcs, and some British guy. However, the Chaos Invasion will be coming soon, so it's time to start preparing. One of the most dangerous components of the invasion is that it spawns chaos portals all over the world, which is like an open invitation for demons to remove your limbs. My plan is to construct several of these buildings across my territory. They prevent chaos rifts from spawning, and if I pull this off just right, we will be the only faction in the entire world that...
I don't know if that's like an actual function of it in the game or if it's part of a mod, because from what I know, those are basically just used to spot hidden armies as well as Skaven undercities. I think it does help reduce corruption at like the highest level as well, and reduces a chance of plague, but that's basically it.
That isn't immediately decimated by hordes of demons. Now, I like my plan, and it should buy us some time. However, we will still have to fight our enemies at some point. To this end, I've ordered the construction of several super heavy class weapons. This is a super heavy mortar. For reference, here it is next to our previous generation of artillery, and now here it is turning a group of goblins into fertilizer. So, yeah, we also have...
Actually, now that I think about it, isn't that basically the Chaos Dwarves? Don't they have something very similar to that? Although I would imagine that the modded unit here is a lot more powerful. Don't know. Haven't played against the Chaos Dwarves yet. Or played as them.
This. I know it looks like a tank, but it's actually a Morse code transmitter. The signal is carried by a 40-pound high explosive shell. The receiver is located somewhere inside this man's gray matter, and the message is death. Finally, the Imperial Sky Destroyer. I haven't even used this one yet, but it cost me 20,000 gold to recruit and another 5,000.
20,000 gold? For one unit? How much damage is this thing going to do per battle? Oh my god. I think Reggie's about to say 5,000 upkeep too. That is insane.
For upkeep. So I'm hoping this will be our secret weapon against the apocalypse. While my new units were recruiting, I spent the next couple of turns testing out different weapons. Here are some of my favorites. A mobilized anti-aircraft gun. It's fairly good at killing flying units, but I prefer to use it to execute political prisoners at close range. Helicopters. They're quick, fire explosive rockets, and you can land them to refuel their ammo.
That is a pretty funky looking helicopter. Is that based off of like an actual World War I design? Or is that just purely fictional? Because I've never seen anything that looks like that. Although, to be fair, I'm not exactly an expert on World War I.
Oh, very cool. Finally, we have colonial infantry. Each one can build 3 dirt walls that provide them cover and prevent the enemy from advancing.
Awesome.
Of course, it doesn't take long for you to realize you can abuse this mechanic to instantly create an impenetrable fortress of dirt that puzzles even the most intelligent chaos giants. You may be wondering...
Just walk over it, bro. Oh, poor giant.
How I experimented with all these war machines. Quite simple, really. I took them across the water and found that the Vikings were very willing to let me test my weapons on them. And by very willing, I mean they weren't able to stop me. Turns out it wasn't climate change that killed the mammoth, it was natural predators, such as carnivorous flights of biplanes. Anyway, our extensive research and development program was actually generating us a lot of money, and the Empire had entered into something of a goal.
Oh my god, we have 41,000 in the bank? Yo, that's probably from sacking, considering our current upkeep, though.
Golden age. Wars were going well, money was flowing, and the empire was blossoming.
Nice.
Basically, there has never been a better time to be a citizen living in the empire.
Chaos stirs, the end is nigh.
Destroying all in its path. The end is nigh. You know what? Don't worry about that. I'm sure it's fine.
Okay.
On a completely unrelated note, I'm going to start drafting a few thousand people into the army now.
Completely
We're on the final
unrelated.
stretch at this point, and I'm just getting everything prepared. I imagine the literal apocalypse may slightly influence the Empire stock market, so I've saved up plenty of cash, recruited extra armies.
Oh, I see we're fully prepared for this one. Oh boy. I can't wait to see this.
And set up 2 layers of walls in all of my settlements. I finished
you
out
can
the
do
next 10
that?
turns fairly relaxed. The only excitement was when we were attacked by Leopold Wolf. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Wolf is an avid collector of traumatic brain injuries. How do I know this? Because I'm the one giving them to him. I don't know much about him, but he's very upset that I own the moot. And every 5 or 10 turns he shows up and starts screaming
It's the Rebel Army. Gotcha.
at me about taking the moot pill. I don't know what that means, so
Say
naturally
moot
I
pill.
shot him with an anti-tank rifle. Other than that, we were ambushed by a large quantity of ogres. In case you are wondering, this is what a man's face looks like when he knows he's about to be spit roasted by murderous fat men. Actually, never mind. I was giving General Booger too much credit, but then again, it's hard to command your troops when you are dead. I took this incursion as an opportunity to use my flamethrowers to carve up the ogre kingdom and redistribute it to my vassal. I know this may seem like an overly violent solution to an otherwise mundane problem, but when you are a walking tank of napalm, suddenly every problem looks like a Vietnamese rice farmer. Turn 99.
Oh my god, Reggie. Oh, Jesus.
Things are good. Our southern border is protected by several military allies. The north is protected by Kislev
Very
and
good.
the Tree People, and everything else is protected by this. I went to sleep on
Cool
turn
beans.
99 with a smile on
Let's
my
see
face,
this.
feeling safe and secure. But suddenly, dark
Until-
and twisted visions crept into my mind. Eldritch abominations, legions of chaos warriors, and above all else, one very angry little man. I woke up in a cold sweat, frantically searching around my empire for the chaos invasion, but it's fine. There's nothing
And?
here. Oh wait. Nope.
Oh, what?
There it is. There are a total
my
of
goodness.
75 fully leveled hostile chaos armies on the map. And as it turns
Holy
out, they're
shit.
hosting a destination wedding in Altdorf because they're all headed straight for me. Truly, it is
Oh
time
my
to summon
God.
the Elector Counts. Actually, never mind. They're all dead
They're all
and we
gone.
killed them. Well, at least
Yeah.
our preparations worked and we have no chaos portals in our territory, so that should buy us some time. Anyway, good luck everyone else. Now, first things first, Festus has willed himself back into existence, and he also brought
How?
10 of his friends from the
Oh, yeah, I see. It's because of the endgame crisis. Gotcha.
a homeless shelter to come kill me. However, I anticipated this and brought 8 of my friends, which means the ultimate battle between modern firepower and disgusting freaks is about to unfold. I kicked it off with 4 of my best armies against 4 of theirs. We deployed our forces and began setting up on the high ground. I was worried they might rush us, but there appeared to be some gentleman's agreement that we would both wait for our reinforcements to arrive. This is what that
I
looked
see.
like on my side. Howitzers, tanks, machine guns, armored cars,
better for
blimps,
us.
and of course, a shitload of infantry. On their side, whatever this is. We were in
What
a
is
bit of a
that?
standoff by this point, but fortunately only one of us had chemical weapons, and surprisingly it wasn't Festus. So I began
Yeah, I know, right? There's gotta be a lot of chaos units that I don't recognize. I still have yet to play them. I really should.
pounding my enemies with poison-filled shells. This achieved some level of neuron activation and they started plowing across the field toward me. Our lines were very neatly formed and we were picking hundreds of them off with each volley, but within minutes it was absolute chaos. Giant insects chasing down heavy tanks, danger close artillery, blimps erupting into flames, giant balls of molten lead plowing across the battlefield, and most importantly, a very unfortunate amount of men being hacked apart by great axes. Luckily, we were able to volley fire the enemy leadership until they more closely resembled a spaghetti strainer than a human being. And with that taken care of, the Chaos Forces began to fold. After about 18 minutes, they were in full retreat
Army
and the
losses.
post-battle screen looked like this. We completed this routine 3 more times to kill Festus and eliminate his faction. It was a victory for mankind, but
There's only
one
one.
thing has become clear. This
One part of the
is not
crisis.
sustainable. My armies
Yeah.
are in shambles, and there's still 50 Chaos Legions barreling down
So
on
what
us.
now?
Fortunately, we do have a chance. You see, when I enabled this endgame crisis, I toggled a setting called Faction Doom. Basically, the Chaos factions are incredibly strong. However, if we can manage to defeat their main general in combat, the rest of their empire will start to crumble. So I don't have to fight all of this, I just have to find and kill each leader.
Okay, you know what? That's actually pretty good. That actually makes this more possible. Because if we had to fight all of them, then yeah, I don't think there would be enough men in the entirety of the Empire to fight them, considering the level of this crisis.
Before it's too late. Our first target, Archaon. He's the strongest faction and also in a surprisingly vulnerable position. I used Festus's portal to take Carl, Gelt, and Claude Dogburglar. Okay, whatever. I teleported them across the map and started a battle with Archaon. He was very strong, but I have yet to find a man who was able to withstand being shot by 1900 rifles. So anyway, he died. And next turn we had our proof of concept, because he went from being strength rank 1 to rank 89, and all of his armies are disappearing. 1 down, 6 to go. After defeat.
Did I misread that? He said 89? I don't know, man.
Defeating Archaon, I decided to close the Chaos portal that he used to teleport here. To do this, we had to complete a moderately challenging battle against Demons of Khorne. But after we beat the teenage angst out of them, we were able to close the portal and claim a reward. I took this ridiculously strong sword that will probably corrupt my mind and turn me into a sadistic lunatic, and I'm okay with that. In fact, each type...
Actually true. Not a joke. Just facts.
Type of portal seems to give you a different reward. Khorne gives you access to extremely powerful items. Nurgle gives all of your armies poison attacks and attrition resistance. Tzeentch provides empire-wide buffs and removes fog of war. And finally, Slaanesh gives you laughably high casualty replenishment and empire growth at the cost of spreading their filthy, filthy corruption. This reward mechanic isn't very narratively important, but I think it's a nice touch, and I like it. Anyway, our next target was Sigvald, accidentally. You see, I tried closing this other Chaos portal, but I fell into it and got teleported directly to Sigvald's femboy empire, an empire which was remarkably unprepared for blimp supremacy. I felt bad shooting such a beautiful man to death, but dare I say, he looks even better now. By this point, Azazel's forces were starting to invade from the north. It took them only 2 turns to kill all of Kislev, and I really don't like the way they're looking at me. Most of my main
yeah, just Azazel's fucking profile picture. It's just, what a strange face.
Armies have been dispatched across the world to hunt down Chaos generals, so I'm stuck defending my territory with these micro armies. They looked good on paper, but suddenly I feel unprepared. Anyway, the fastest way for me to stop this will be to kill Azazel, so I sent 2 armies up the river to look for him, and we didn't have to look very hard because he attacked us on the next turn. It's not looking good, but what the auto-resolve seems to be forgetting is that this is my main tank regiment, and as it turns out, no amount of horniness can protect you from having your limbs blown off in an explosion. And furthermore, Azazel's tactic of throwing himself under my tank treads was questionable at best. With Azazel defeated and his ecstatic legion in disarray, we've bought ourselves some time. For my next magic trick, I will be making Valkia the Bloody disappear. I took Blimp Boy through the Chaos portals again and managed to land right next to her. She had a lot more units than me, but she's having a very hard time getting them through this choke point while I drop bombs on it. This is what we call a skill issue. Anyway, Valkia was absolutely seething at the fact she forgot to bring ranged units to a blimp battle, so I had free reign to basically do whatever I want. With her defeated, we just have 3 to go: Kolek, Wulfric, and Village. Speaking of Village, his faction is absolutely mopping the floor with the Chinese, as evidenced by the fact I am looking at a map of Cathay with only 1 Cathayan settlement.
That's unfortunate. Cathay was not ready for the Chaos invasion. How can you blame them, though? Even the Great Bastion wouldn't be able to hold against that many armies.
Anyway, I sent Gelt and Dogburglar through a portal to chase Village down, but he got the drop on us at Dragon's Gate, and it's not looking so good. We did our best with the basic infantry, but they're remarkably squishy and don't hold up so well against return fire. Also, this creature exists and is doing horrible, horrible things to anyone unlucky enough to survive the enemy's ranged attacks.
It looks really, really cool. I think that's unique to Tzeentch, right? I forget what they're called.
Tried everything. Magic, bombs, even tried burning it like an ant with this high-powered magnifying glass. Didn't work.
Oh, missed.
Our winning streak was officially over. I suppose it's true what they say. Don't send a boy to do a blimp's job. By abusing the very
True.
same chaos portals the demons created, I was able to teleport my blimp army directly into the heart of Villach's kingdom. And thanks to some questionably balanced units, we were back in the win column. But our territory was still
Questionably
beset by a
balanced,
bunch of miscellaneous freaks, and they're starting to corrupt the environment, which is itself spawning rebel armies. But that's alright, there's just Kolek and Wulfric left. I actually found Wulfric in a very vulnerable position on my northern shores. Alone and with almost no troops under his command, I dispatched 4 of my militias to deal with him. But perhaps sensing the noose tightening, he, let's just say, deleted himself. I don't know why, but he was there one turn and dead the next. You can blame it on...
Huh? Can the AI do that? Like retire their own legendary lord in order to escape a situation? Because that's pretty big brain, I guess. Maybe? Unless if this counts as their legendary lord being defeated, then
on a freak accident or a bad horoscope, but personally, I don't care. On to Kolek. In case you couldn't tell, Kolek is fairly dangerous. He wields a hammer the size of 6 grown men, and I have personally never seen him cry even once.
Kolek seems like a pretty fun campaign to play. From what I know of him, I think the more vassals you have, the bigger he gets or something like that. I do have a feeling though that it might be a little bit outdated considering the fact that he was introduced into the game in the very first edition of Warhammer, right? And hasn't been updated since. Although I could be wrong on that front. Because, I mean, the Chaos units did get some guys with the new DLC, I think Shadows of Change, as well as the Champions of Chaos, and I don't really know if they affected anything of Kolek's campaign.
We attacked him just outside of Cathay with what's left of our army. We have about 5 units of riflemen, a few blimps on life support, and whatever random regiments of renown I could anxiously recruit before the battle. Okay. Kolek's army was composed of 5 units of hell cannons, and basically everyone else was some variation of a person who would like to crush your skull beneath their bare foot. The battle was on, and I breathed a sigh of relief because my siege weapons had longer range than his. But as it turns out, Kolek must be a top because he did not appreciate being pounded. It's all the same to me though, because with his cannons destroyed, I can now safely deploy my blimps into the...
Very nice. Oh, never mind.
Okay, so I guess I missed one. Anyway, after a little more shelling, we were back on track. Kolek's beasts closed the gap on my gun line very quickly, probably because we were having a hard time aiming while being struck by lightning. After 10 minutes, all of my units were dead, except for a couple of heroes and a blimp which has 230 health. Kolek was still running around hammering my artillery crews into the ground, but eventually Balthazar Gelt killed him by transmuting his body into lead. The blimps may have also helped with this physical transformation. After leaving the battle, we were greeted with an ultimate victory screen. By using trench warfare, chemical weapons, and generally unfair units, we were able to usher in an age of peace. Truly, the world...
Huh. That's pretty cool. I haven't... No, considering the amount of hours I played, I haven't experienced like an endgame crisis yet. Because we always play our campaigns up until the short campaign victory, so we never really get to that point in the game. I didn't know that there was like some sort of reward waiting for you at the end. I guess I'll have to try it out someday. Maybe finally play a campaign all the way to long campaign victory. It's going to be kind of a lot, but you know, gotta experience everything the game has to offer.
Can move forward and live in harmony. Wait, no. We still have unfinished business.
Oh,
perhaps I was the endgame crisis all along. Alright, big thank you to this month's patrons, and finally, thank you for watching. And also, thank you to War Thunder. You can check out the game using the link in the description or the pinned comment below to receive all this cool stuff. Alright, that's all. See you later.
Very cool. I actually really want to try out this mod. Although... there are like a ton of mods out there for Warhammer 3, which I have yet to even try. I do remember seeing a mod that adds like more dinosaurs and stuff for the lizardmen. There's just a thriving mod community out there that, yeah, I should get into someday. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.